I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, March the 25th, 2013. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his security cabinet decided to reinstate the monthly transfer of tax revenues to the Palestinian Authority today. According to a stipulation of the Oslo Accords, Israel collects taxes and custom duties on the Palestinian Authority's behalf on goods imported into the Palestinian territories. The Prime Minister had withheld the transfer of those revenues following the Palestinian statehood upgrade at the UN back in November. However, in January, Netanyahu authorized a one-time release of $100 million to the PA due to their very difficult financial situation. The Prime Minister's office said the decision to resume the regular payments today was made as per the opinion of the Security Cabinet. It follows the recent visits to Israel by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and President Obama. Kerry, who had met with Netanyahu as well as with PA President Mahmoud Abbas over the weekend, has been pushing for the funds to be released since he took on his new role last month. President Obama had said during his Israel visit last week that he wanted to see steps that both the Palestinian and Israeli sides take to build trust upon which lasting peace will depend. And President Obama issued a holiday message on the eve of Passover today, sending, quote, warmest wishes to all those celebrating Passover here in America, in the state of Israel, and around the world. The president also spoke of his recent Israel trip, saying that during the visit he had a chance to speak directly with young Israelis about the future they wanted for their country, their region, and the world. He further said, and I saw once again how the dream of true freedom found its full expression in those words of hope from Hatikva, Liot am chofshi be'artzenu, to be a free people in our land. A recent court ruling in Cyprus has reignited calls from the Jewish community to the European Union to designate Hezbollah as a terror organization. A Cypriot court found Qasem Taleb Yaqub guilty last week on several charges, including preparing an attack targeting Israeli tourists in Cyprus. Yaqub is a Swedish and Lebanese citizen and self-professed member of Hezbollah. During his trial, he revealed important information on his activities on behalf of Hezbollah, including his tracking of flights from Israel to Cyprus that were very similar to tactics used in the terrorist attack last July in Bulgaria, which a Bulgarian investigation recently confirmed was also the work of Hezbollah. Jewish organizations here in the U.S. expressed hope that Yaqub's conviction would further convince the EU to place Hezbollah on its terror list. Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, said, "Will Hezbollah now at long last be added to the EU terrorism list where it so rightly belongs, or will the EU continue to dither and delay, hiding behind one unconvincing pretext or another?" Anti-Defamation League National Director Abe Foxman said the EU as a whole needs to act now and not wait until the next attack. He said it was the morally right and strategically right thing to do, and that there was no excuse for inaction. Well, with the beginning of the Passover holiday this evening, special preparations in Israel are in place to help those who may not have a Seder to attend or Seder food to enjoy. Magen David Adom distributed tens of thousands of food packages to disadvantaged families over the last few days. And the Hotel Managers Association in Israel is hosting 1,000 lone IDF soldiers without families in the country, at hotels throughout Israel for a Seder tonight. That initiative is part of a joint project including the Association for the Well-Being of Israel Soldiers, or AWIS, and the IDF. And the Times of Israel reports that Israeli settlers who are members of the Eretz Shalom movement distributed hundreds of loaves of bread to needy Palestinians today, enabling them to discard their leavened bread ahead of Passover and at the same time send a message of peace to their Palestinian neighbors. This is the third year in a row that members of the movement, inspired by the late Rabbi Menachem Froman of the West Bank settlement of Tekoa, have collected food items forbidden to eat on Passover and then distributed them to Palestinian communities. A message of peace is also attached to the food parcels. A resident of the West Bank settlement of Ofra told the Times of Israel that he collected between 500 and 700 loaves of pita bread discarded by grocery stores in the West Bank settlements of Eli, Shiloh, and Ofra for the distribution program. He said that while the action is largely symbolic and will not solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, lots of small steps like this can perhaps create a different atmosphere in the West Bank. A Palestinian peace activist from the village of Sawiya, who received that bread and gave it out to the needy families in his village, told the Times of Israel that he hoped such initiatives would improve relations between Jews and Arabs. And back here in the U.S., the Union for Reform Judaism launched a new website just in time for the Passover holiday. ReformJudaism.org approaches Jewish life, practice, learning, and social justice from a modern Jewish perspective. And the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism is offering specialized social justice Haggadahs for Passover to provide additional insight and awareness to the traditional Seder. The various Haggadahs focus on such issues as immigration, world hunger, women's rights, and more, and can be found on their website, rac.org. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, March the 25th. Wishing you a very happy Passover. I'm Teisha Bader, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Chag Sameach.